Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for the Wednesday, April 8th, 2020 meeting. I will call the meeting to order at 5:15. On this end, we are going to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I don't need them.
Okay. Mr. Zerlo, would you please conduct a roll call? Certainly. Mr. Castine.
Present.
Mr. Conroy. Here. Mr. Dane.
I had me on mute. Here.
Mr. Hall. He's there. Yeah. Mr. Henry. Here. Mr. Perrier.
Here.
Mr. Potiker.
Here.
Mr. Rosenquist. Here. Mr. Timmons.
Here.
Ms. Waldron.
Patty? She's muted. She said here.
Okay. Good. So, she's frozen. So just a reminder, legislators, in the event that you do want to speak, you would have to unmute yourself so we can hear you on this end. But in an effort to keep all background noise to a minimum, we are asking that until you need to speak, to keep your phones on mute or computers on mute. Thank you. Okay. All legislators have received a copy of the stenographer's minutes of the March 25th, 2020 regular session. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Mr. Rosenquist.
So moved. I have a motion with a second.
Mr. Hall.
And Mr. Hall, second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good enough. Motion carried. Thank you. For the meeting tonight, for our format, there will not be a public comment this evening. However, members of the public are welcome to express their concerns, comments by emailing us at legislature@clintoncounty.gov.com. That's legislature@clintoncounty.gov.com. That's for public comments. We will now go to the committee reports. Each legislator chairs one of the 10 standing committees, and I'm going to call on the chairperson of each committee in alphabetical order by committee, starting with Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Perrier.
Mr. Perrier doesn't have anything to report. I don't have a copy of it.
That's okay.
I have his report here.
Go ahead.
The Buildings and Grounds Committee has not met since the last regular session. Standing committee meetings have been canceled until further notice. I will report, Mr. Perrier will report to the board as necessary. I know that he's in constant communications with the superintendent of Buildings and Grounds, and he and I speak quite often as well, so he is up to date.
Okay. Children and Family Services, Mr. Potiker.
The Children and Family Services Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolution number 236 was pulled and placed on the agenda upon recommendation of the committee. Standing committee meetings have been canceled until further notice. I will report to the board as necessary. End of report.
Thank you. Economic Development and County Operations, Legislator Rosenquist.
Yes, sir. The Economic Development and County Operations Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolutions number 237 and 238 have been pulled and placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. Standing committee meetings have been canceled until further notice, but I will report to the board as necessary and report.
Thank you. Finance, Mr. Timmons.
Yes, the Finance Committee has not met since the last regular session. As I am sure you are aware, the county faces some economic fiscal challenges ahead. We will convene as appropriate to address this situation. Standing committee meetings have been canceled until further notice. And the report.
Thank you. Health, Legislator Waldron.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Health Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolutions 239 and 240 have been pulled and placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. However, at this time, I would like our Director of Public Health, John Canosa, to update the board on the COVID-19 outbreak. Standing committees have been canceled until further notice. So, John, if you want to take it from here.
All right, thank you, Patty. John's coming over. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome, John.
I'll give you a brief update of everything. First of all, you do know that we have various teams working on this project. Right now, we have our contact tracing, isolation quarantine nurses stationed up at Clinton Community College in a nice building up there. They are working solely on investigating, contact tracing individuals who have had contact with positive patients or suspect positive patients. We also are taking general public calls, primarily Mandy's group, Health Planning and Promotion, working in our Environmental Health and Safety building command center there. We also have myself and probably another couple handfuls of people working in incident command on various different duties. So WIC continues to do some work as well as Environmental Health and Safety. I'll give you some quick updates for the day. Statistics, numbers-wise, we have at this time, as released in our press release today, 39 lab-confirmed positive cases. We have 15 of those 39 have recovered, lab-confirmed recovered. No deaths to date. We have 33 suspect cases. These are cases, typically middle-aged, younger people who are home sick, have not been tested, but present with all of the symptoms of COVID-19, such that we have them in a separate category like that. We've got a total tested to date of 321. As I understand, CVPH has 35 ventilators on hand, 5 of which are being used right now on 5 specific patients in the ICU that have COVID, presented as positive for COVID. We've been working with CVPH closely on their surge building plans. They're looking at many options, including a prefabricated hospital being constructed in their parking lot, as well as utilizing Moffett Hall up at SUNY Plattsburgh. We've had a couple of very good proactive meetings with both SUNY and CVPH in that direction. We are looking at starting tomorrow our first daily briefing report, a 10-minute report on Facebook Live at Eric Day's offices at the EOC. He's got a nice, simplistic setup for us to be able to do that, to get more messages out to the public, as we have been urged to do so. Eric's got just a simple system to make it happen. We're looking at doing a full press conference on Friday at 11 o'clock at our TCHD Old County Court Health Building, as we've done for the last few Fridays. So it's important for me to send you a note here that, similar to what we're seeing in New York City, the governor has made mention of in his press conferences, hospitalizations, intubations have declined in New York City. We're starting to see some of that. It's very positive. If we can get a couple of more days with 1 case, 2 cases, we'll be very happy with that. That will be our evidence to suggest that we're flattening the curve in Clinton County. That would be very positive. That should not. No, our view on this, very good, Mr. Thurlow, that should not ease the public. We don't want that. We have many more weeks to go of social distancing. Wash your hands. Minimize public gatherings. It's going to take time to get out of this. Not like the way we got into it very rapidly. It's going to take time to get out of this. My nurses would strongly continue to push in that direction. Other than that, the only other updates I have is we're working well with CVPH, SUNY, our partners, Mercy, our county partners, Mercy Services, the sheriff. The one good thing that I did get out in the mail today, so that you all know, is that we put a hold on the opening, or should I say keeping closed, all campgrounds, children's camps in Clinton County that are privately owned. The state proceeded to close all DEC and state parks and rec campgrounds
the day prior. So we followed suit with that, which was appropriate. You go camping, I camp. Camping is all about gathering over a fire, gathering in a camper, close conditions. It's the appropriate thing to do. We're keeping them closed currently till May 1st. We will reevaluate on or about April 26th, 27th for that. So that's it for me.
John, maybe a quick update on
Oh, very good, Michael. Thank you. If we do get complaints about, and we have gotten a lot of complaints, people will, if they see something that they know is wrong, a non-essential business operating, too many people congregating, having a couple of beers in a location, they will call, and they should be calling our emergency services dispatch to report that, so that dispatch can get the word out to the appropriate police force to do that, whether it be the city police, the sheriffs, or New York State Police,
or municipal code enforcement.
or especially on the thank you, Michael, on the businesses operating, codes enforcement should be the prime entity investigating those for operation. It's building use, buildings being occupied illegally. Buildings equals code. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. And I did ask Eric that question about enforcement. What do we know right now about any enforcement that has happened, either the fines that have been outlined or arrests even to date? Given that he has said that they have gotten calls from concerned people that there have been violations.
I can tell you what I know. Mike's got something, but from my perspective, the city has pretty much been on a warning basis only. The sheriffs did meet with the city police today to discuss one business that was being operated on Route 3, a vape shop, and they're trying to both the city and the sheriff get on the same page when it comes to enforcement. So that was further investigated. Mike Zerlo can tell you that.
So today, Legislator Rosenquist, there has not been any fines levied.
Right.
The incident commanders today have decided to ramp that up a little bit and make sure that the appropriate law enforcement agencies, most likely the Sheriff's Department and or the City PD, as Mr. Canosa talked about, are fully engaged. And secondly, crystal clear direction, which is being given through the incident command system to all local governments to make code enforcement officers aware of their abilities to levy fines under the governor's pause order. So the answer to your question is no, not yet, but the message from the county, which you'll hear starting tomorrow, I believe, at the Facebook live stream, is that is going to be ramped up.
Okay, sorry, just to put a period on that. That has been the thing that I've heard the most concern over is and no doubt, I have no doubt that our law enforcement is out there and talking with people and breaking up those kinds of large groups and the concern that people have for large groups. The concern is that the enforcement piece, and that it's good to hear that Clayton County and local law enforcement is stepping up on the enforcement and putting some teeth into violators.
Mr. Canosa?
Yep. Go ahead, Patty.
Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you for doing such a wonderful job. But my question is in regards to corrections. I continue to get calls from the correctional officers or their families, and they still feel concerned that, you know, what they're doing inside, and I'm sure there's nothing we can do because I'm curious, as docs stepped up their game a bit. From what I understand, they're still running mess hall and yard without social distance policies in place. So I guess the concern would be the ripple effect to Clinton County because of it.
I have heard, Patty, that DOC has adjusted their policy with regard to the wearing of masks, which is a good thing for those corrections officers that are working there. They are now allowed to wear them, specific ones, as I understand, without metal strips in them. But that's all I know on DOCs. I have not heard anything else. We have not had any other complaints. As you know, 2 weeks ago, they had one inmate that was positive and 3 that were awaiting test results. The one positive has now gone past their quarantine. They are now free, relatively speaking. And the 3 others were 2 of them were negative for testing. 1 was positive. So at least they're doing more. Before, Patty, I can clearly say, as you know, they weren't doing a hell of a lot. Okay?
So I can tell you that Chairman Henry and I participate each day in a 4 o'clock call with the governor's staff for the North Country region, and DOC's questions permeate those calls each and every day. So I don't have the answers on what, in fact, they are or are not doing. I do know for a fact that the message you just explained is being communicated up through the chain of command. That's right.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
I have a question if I could. Calvin Castine.
Go ahead, Cal.
I know we can't be specific, but is there a way to generalize how these cases happen, how these people picked up the disease without being specific and giving away their identities? Is there a way to generalize them so people will know what happened that caused their particular cases? Out of the 39?
Too many variabilities to tell that. There's no way to tell that. As far as telling our police officers, our EMTs, Office for the Aging for meal delivery, those entities do know the addresses of these people, but for specific reasons to protect their identities, we don't want that getting out necessarily. Now, social media and the gift of gab, people are going to find out who's got it and who doesn't. But it's not going to come out of my mouth. It's not going to come out of the cops' mouths where these people are. We're bound to keep that close to our hearts.
Is there? I think Mr. Castine asking if there is a general theme as to how your team is seeing the transmission.
From our contract tracing, we don't know how many caught it from other people.
No, we're not. It's very irregular, extremely variable, and some people have contacts with a lot of people and they don't get it. Some people have contacts with a couple and they do get it. I've asked that question a few times myself. So, too difficult to put a finger on. Yeah, our society is so involved. It's a big spider web, and everybody's just out there doing their own thing. Different ways for different people. I think that's the answer. People contract it different ways by their social behavior. So,
Anything else for Mr. Canosa? Thank you, John, very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Moving along, for Human Services, Legislator Conroy.
Yeah. The Human Services Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolution 241 and 242 have been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. Standing committee meetings have been canceled until further notice, and I'll report to the board as necessary. End of report.
Thank you. Personnel. Where'd my personnel thing go? I have one. Oh, okay. Okay, Personnel Committee did not meet on its regularly scheduled April 6, 2020 meeting, but rather submitted a mailing poll on Friday the 3rd, 2020, and reviewed 3 personnel items. There are 3 resolutions on tonight's agenda that reflect the committee's recommendations. The department heads have been advised that only requests that are essential to operations and related to COVID-19 will be considered. But with some important items, we're going to discuss the temporary on-call payment for environmental staff. We're going to backfill. We're going to talk about backfill of full-time director of planning, and we will discuss the appointment of internal candidate for that position. End of report. For personnel,
Plattsburgh International Airport, Legislator Hall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've had a poll with my committee on certain items on the airport, and as everyone knows, our flights are not in the greatest of shape at the present time. They keep canceling them. So it's a touch and go situation until we get back home. There's nothing else going on out there. Chris has been doing a hell of a job just keeping the place open. End of report.
Thank you, sir. Next, Public Safety, Legislator Castine.
The Public Safety Committee has not met since the last regular session. Resolutions 243, 244, and 245 have been polled and placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The standing committee meetings have been canceled until further notice. I will report to the board as necessary. End of report.
Very good, thank you. Transportation, Legislator Dane.
The Transportation Committee also has not met since the last regular session, and the schedule obviously is fluid, and there's no scheduled meetings until this pandemic allows one. End of report.
Thank you. We'll move on, I think, probably rather quickly to liaison reports. Again, starting with Mr. Dane, Board of Health. Oh, that's me. Never mind. That's mine. No report. We got a lot going on. No report. Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Chairman, just I think it's worth, and you know this, Dr. Kathleen.
Camella.
A SUNY physician, is an active member of Board of Health, and Board of Health is communicating very well with the Health Department, and in turn, the Incident Command system. So, but she's the Board of Health is fully aware of everything that is going on.
I was gonna wait to talk about the Incident Command Center till a little later, but now's as good a time as any, I suppose. It'll only take a minute. As you may be aware, we have set up at the EOC Emergency Operations Center an Incident Command Center that is 4 commanders for the county are myself, the sheriff, John Canoza for the Department of Health, and Eric Day for Operation of Emergency Services. We talk literally every day. We have meetings all the time. Our job is to all of these disparate pieces from enforcement that Legislator Rosenquist was talking about to the public health issues that Legislator Waldron and John Canoza presented tonight, to just a myriad of functions. First responders, liaison with the hospital, all of the things that you might think revolve around this crisis, and some you may not, folks may not think about. We run through that UIC with all of the professionals involved. And then, of course, supporting the commanders are all of the folks that have expertise in all kinds of areas. The nurses, Board of Health, we have experts we can call upon. As I said, we have the liaison with CVPH. So we meet all the time. Logistics, thank you. Transportation. Finance. Michael is there as well. Michael's in every one of those meetings because obviously finance is a big part of some of these things. So we have what I would say is a very good command structure for this. I think it's operating very well now, and it's been set up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a couple weeks, and so that's what we're doing as far as the Board of Health part and the UIC. That's all I have on the Board of Health. Chamber of Commerce, anything, Legislator Rosenquist?
I don't have an update on the chamber specifically, but if you haven't heard yet, and this was public information, both Christy Kennedy and her wife Shannon have been infected with COVID-19. They are doing good. They're getting through it. I think she said she was 4th day of her 14-day quarantine. They think they may have gotten it through family members and taking care of family members. So, just Christy's been a great partner, a good friend over the last several years, and just keep them in your mind. Thanks.
Thank you. We will. Again,
You got two of them, Chris. Clinton Community College. Anything from the
I
college?
have no report for the college.
Chris, just a small tidbit. When I speak under my staff report, I will just talk about the community college and vis-a-vis the recently adopted state budget.
Community Services Board, Legislator Conroy.
I have no report from Community Services Board.
Thank you. Cooperative Extension, Mr. Timmons.
No report.
Okay. Discipline Review, I'll speak for the group. We have no discipline issues. There was no need to meet. Grievance Committee, again, I'll speak for the group if you don't mind. Grievance has nothing. There was no reason to meet. That moves us to Inter-County Legislator Waldron.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is no report. We were scheduled to have inter-county here in Clinton County, but that obviously didn't happen.
Okay, thank you. Again, LC and LG Regional Planning Board, Legislator Waldron.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the RDC is in the process of deferring all loan payments from their current borrowers, and they continue to work hard to try to help all of the small businesses that have been affected by COVID-19. And a report.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much. Soil and Water, Legislators Perrier or Timmons.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are going to actually try to have a meeting next Thursday at 1 o'clock using Zoom online. I'm guessing that we probably have some farmers that have finished some grants and are probably looking to get paid, and I'm sure that they can use the money right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Workforce Development Board, Legislator Rosenquist.
Yes, sir. We had our quarterly meeting last week. There was not any amount of significant business, just new board members added to the board and report.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Staff member reports. Ms. Kelleher.
I would like to request an executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Okay. Mr. Zerlo?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I think I'd like to take the opportunity to go over some items, to go over the state budget as we continue to wade through what was passed. I would like to give you some highlights and answer any questions you may have. The first item that is critical oh, by the way, it's mostly bad news, in case you were wondering. The first item is the state budget did, in fact, and we've talked about this before, give executive authority so the governor and his budget director can cut state spending unilaterally if the state financial plan is out of balance by $1 billion. Most likely, the state fiscal plan is going to be out of balance from anywhere from $10 to $15 billion. Therefore, we can expect state aid cuts in the percentage range of 10 to 15%. Quick math would dictate that could hurt Clinton County in excess of $3.5 million. That being said, it's not automatic. That happens. They take a snapshot of the state finances 3 times the rest of the year. One is the month of April, which is not going to be good, and then May, and then everything from thereafter through the end of the year. So we are hoping that this could be ameliorated somewhat with a stimulus 4 bill, if that's passed in Congress. We are certainly advocating for payments to go directly to state and local governments. Chairman Henry and I participated in an ISAC call with Senator Schumer. He indicated that Stimulus 4 is under active discussion, and he is critically aware that those payments should go, or some payments in a Stim 4 should go directly to state and local governments as well. We also have a call scheduled for tomorrow afternoon with Congresswoman Stefanik, and that will be a topic of discussion as well. So it is hoping that that there will be some light on the horizon. The state of New York, if you're listening to the governor, there is no way they're going to unilaterally get out of a $15 billion hole, and as such, local governments will not easily be able to dig out of holes created because of the state's fiscal plan. Also in the budget, there was a $250 million statewide amount of money to fund a distressed hospital trust fund. $200 million of that would come from the city of New York. $50 million would be generated by upstate counties. How are they going to get that money? They are going to intercept local sales tax. So for the second year in a row, the sacrosanct local sales tax is being penetrated. You recall last year it was the AIM payment, and this year it is an amount of money to fund this new distressed hospital trust fund. Calculations indicate that interception would equate to about $350,000 to Clinton County. The budget says that intercept is for 2 years only, but the cynical local governments are very nervous that once that avenue is open, that pipeline is open, that it will remain open. So right now it is only for 2 years. This is ironically a better news than was the original Medicaid proposal, which was defeated. Thank God for that. That we do consider that a big win. We have talked about what that proposal would have done to us, and that would have affected us in excess of $1.3 million plus going forward in perpetuity. So the Medicaid cap is still in place. So there was good work done by your association in everybody's lobbying efforts. So that was in fact a positive dynamic. It cost us $350,000 in sales tax, but that was defeated. A piece of good news is our sales tax extender, our 1%, was passed. All home rule bills were put in the budget omnibus bill. So we now have our additional 1% signed into law for 3 additional years. If only that additional 1% would generate what we originally anticipated it generating. As I mentioned, it keeps the AIM payment intercept in place from last year, which we continue to say is terrible public policy. Mr. Rosenquist, college aid was reduced by community college aid was reduced by $31 million statewide. The base aid formula was stayed the same, but there was no floor. You recall last year there was a floor, so that was removed. It's anticipated that this will cost Clinton Community College around $250,000. Prevailing wage on all projects funded by 30% of public funds will now be prevailing wage will now be applicable on those projects. That is effective in year 2022. So projects in the hopper through the remainder of this year and next would not be affected. But this is kind of back thinking in my mind as we're going to have to try to come out of this economic tailspin, is bad news for industrial development agencies across the state, because any benefit potentially they had providing to incentives for projects would be numbed now by the fact that prevailing wage on public projects is required. There was no early voting money this year. There is, the Environmental Bond Act did pass, so there's a $3 billion Environmental Bond Act that will be on November's ballot. Criminal justice reforms, they did relook at the criminal justice reforms. There's more judicial discretion given on bail, more time for district attorneys to deal with the discovery process, and there's a small amount of money that should flow to district attorneys to deal with the increased burden placed on their offices having to do with discovery. A piece of good news, the enhanced FMAP, which was part of the federal stimulus package, will flow through the counties, and that is retroactive to January 1st, 2020. Essentially what that means is the weekly share that we pay in Medicaid to the state of New York will be reduced. So when they passed the federal stimulus, it was made clear that the state of New York could not intercept that enhanced benefit. It needed to flow directly to county governments. CHIPS money and extreme weather chips is in fact in the budget, but you know we do need to be cognizant of the fact that the shift in the state fiscal plan could reduce funds that flow to local government. So Mr. Weiss and I are on the same page on that, and he's going to make sure that our projects that we plan on doing will be covered with CHIPS money. Sales tax update, getting away from the budget for a second. Using NISAC's estimates, we are still estimating that it could hurt our revenue streams about $5 million. And I also have done the math, and I know at that estimate what the impact would be on towns, villages, and the cities. And I could communicate that if you so want. And I have already spoken to the mayor and the town of Plattsburgh supervisor on what that potentially would do to them. Most of your municipalities that you represent take their sales tax as a credit on the county tax within their municipality. We do not, in a year where there's a shortfall, we do not seek a check back from those municipalities for the shortfall. We keep that on the books, and in years that there are increases, the county would keep those increases. Those municipalities that take their money in cash obviously are only going to get what is generated. A little piece on the airport. The stimulus bill did provide money to airports. We are still analyzing the formula by which money would flow, but all airports, big and small, are going to receive some money from that stimulus package, which is a good thing. Just to remind you, we pay the debt service on our terminal building with passenger facility charges and parking lot revenue, both of which are anemic at this point. The formula is based on two things. One is enplanements, the number of enplanements for the previous year, and amount of debt. We know generally what we think we are going to receive based on our enplanement number, and that is around $500,000. We do not know what we are going to receive based on our debt service obligations, so we are working with our engineering firms to determine what that number is going to be. Just as a reminder, we also use parking as a revenue in the airport's budget, which is going to be woefully short this year. So what are we doing? And I know we're going to continue to have these conversations in far greater detail with you, and I'll be seeking guidance as we move through this process. But I plan on sending a memo to department heads tomorrow with your concurrence, with strict instructions regarding no travel, no backfills, and no unnecessary purchases unless they are critical to the
to the county's operations and or response to COVID-19. Probably news that's not going to be well received, but these are the little things that we need to start doing to ensure that money that is in our budget remains in our budget for when we close out 2020. I'm asking department heads to review their contracts and decide whether those are essential contracts that we need to do and what our ability is to get out of those contracts. We obviously have a lot of contracts that we pass each and every year. So if with your concurrence, that's my starting point. They have heard this on my department head calls. It is not going to be a surprise to them, but I did not want to send the formal notice out without talking to the county legislature. And just lastly, we are meeting, Ms. Kelleher, Ms. Kimblem, and I are meeting, electronically with the union this Friday, and we will be discussing our situation with them, and having some discussions on what we may be looking at in the future. No determinations of anything yet, but I just want to let you know we are meeting with them Friday morning. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I know Mr. Brown has one item he wants to discuss with the board.
Absolutely. Before Rodney starts, I'd just like that. Mike's being a little humble here in the sense that when he was talking that NISAC, our county association, has done great work in all of the items that Michael just talked about, budget and everything else. And that is true. Our association has done a good job. But I can tell you that Michael, we have been working on this diligently over the last week. Every one of those items we have called. We have been on conference calls. We have talked to everybody in the state and the federal government we could think of. We've talked to other counties and worked hard to come out with the best deal that we can. Now, obviously, it's not just one county. It was many counties, and it was our association. But Michael has done a great job here on this in a very bad situation. And hopefully, we can work our way through this. Rodney, go ahead.
I know that there's been a few emails amongst the legislators regarding the tobacco settlement funding for 2020. And the tenor of the emails was a possible decision to not fund any of the projects in 2020, to hold the money over to 2021. I'll give you an update on how many applications we received and the total dollar amount. We received 11 applications prior to April 1st for the 2020 round, and they total $142,000. We have about $20,000 remaining in that account. We anticipate getting about another $50,000. So we expect to have about $70,000, which is only half of the money that was requested. If the decision is to not fund it this year, we will move forward and contact each of the applicants to let them know not to expect these monies.
Legislator Rosenquist.
Rodney, I think I concur. There were two thoughts. I proposed something and other people proposed other things, but I think the sentiment is to postpone funding any tobacco settlement requests this year, reassess next year where that money, or even reassess this year to see if that money can be allocated to fill some shortfalls that we're going to end up facing here soon, and then making some reevaluation for next year. That was my sense. Other people on that committee can talk up if they want. Absolutely should.
Sure. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Go ahead. Sorry.
I concur with Legislator Rosenquist. The tobacco settlement money is certainly discretionary funding, and given the situation, anything discretionary should stop and cease immediately. So I concur.
Thank you. Anyone else? I also concur. with Chris. We'd actually talked, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago on similar things when it wasn't quite as bad as it is now. I thought Chris was right then, and I think he's right now. So I would concur as well. So
Just ask for consent. I don't need to vote.
I will. So is it a sense, is there anybody here that believes we should not do this? Or, well, let me put it another way. Are we all in agreement that this is discretionary funding and we will not fund any project for this year? Is there anybody opposed to that? Hearing none, then we believe it's the sense of the legislature that we will release or issue no tobacco money this year. Thank you.
And sorry, and I just want to make just a point of clarification: is that was not just my decision that or my idea that got put forward. I think it was just a collective conversation that happened. I don't want to take credit for that, so I just want to.
I'll be the bad guy. I floated it out there, so. But I just believe that it is the proper thing to do. People are still smoking. I just got the email the other day that we are due our $1.1 million, 5% of which would be used to fund these projects. So even if we take a year off, it's this legislature always has the option of reinstating. There is an ongoing funding stream for this program.
Yeah. And in a sense, Chris, if I could add, or Michael, if I could add that, this might be, obviously it's not a good reason why we're doing this, but it might be a good reason that we have done this. If for no other reason, next year, we've talked about revisiting the rules and how this is going to be reissued. Well, I'm sure that's a conversation we're going to continue to have, and we may be in better shape, or maybe this money's gone next year, depending on how we do. But I think it's good. Not good that we have to do this, but I think it's a good decision to do this.
Your report.
Yes, sir.
Your report. It's not on our list. I apologize.
Where am I? What did I miss?
It's nothing. It's opportunity for you to report.
Oh, I think you've done. You've hit all the budget. You hit all that. Good bunch. Now?
Yeah. Yeah. That was your floor. So.
Well, yeah, it is mine, isn't it? It's time for me to do it. This is a difficult thing for all of us, I know. This is Mark Dame's Legislator Dame's last official meeting, as you all know. He will be resigning his seat on Friday. It'll be effective Friday. So this is Mark's last meeting. I'd like to take my time here to just mention a few things. It is undoubtedly true that I would not be here as a legislator or in this seat were it not for Mark Dane. And his untiring assistance that he offered to me, his well thought out advice, and his guidance that he gave to me. The same is true in our time together in the legislature. Mark has continued to be the same friend and wise counselor. Time after time, I have met with him to ask his advice. He's always been free with his time. He's always given me good advice. Throughout his entire time on the legislature, Mark never forgot his neighborhood that he grew up in, nor the city that he calls home. There's never been a stronger advocate for the average worker, the small business owner, and the taxpayer. But Mark also never forgot the most vulnerable of us. He and Diane's work in the foster parents program has been extraordinary. And I thank them both for what they have done for those children, those families, and their contributions to the success of the overall program. Mark is as good as his word. His yes means yes, and his no means no. Depend on what he told you. That's a very valuable commodity in this business of governing. I will miss my friend. I will miss his humor, his sage advice, his leadership, and his consistency, even in the face of criticism. Criticism, as he represented his neighbors, this county, and this nation, with determination and with good cheer. Mark, thank you for all you've done for Clinton County. We are better off for having you as part of this legislature. We are better off for having you and your family as part of our community. You will be missed by all here, but we will stay in touch. I have your number. I will be calling. I will still be asking for your advice. And I'll leave you with one last thing. Thank you for all you have done for me. Good luck to you, Diane, and your family as you venture out to see what's around the next corner. Patty. Yes, Patty, go ahead.
Yes, Legislator Dame. I have watched you legislate for 6 years now, both in standing committees and here on the floor. I have immense respect for you, not only as a legislator, but as an honorable human being. Your word is your word, as Mark Henry said. Your commitment to not only your district, but to every taxpayer in this county has been steadfast and sturdy. Your style is bold and brave, but most of all effective. I've learned a lot from you, Mr. Dane, and I wish you and your family the best in the future. And I personally will truly miss you, Mark. Thank you very much for all that you have done.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Mark.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mark. We go speak.
Calvin?
Speech.
Just,
Calvin, go ahead, Calvin.
hi. I just want to say that I was really saddened when I heard shortly after I was elected that Mark was going to be leaving the board, and I was looking forward to serving 4 years with Mark Dame. I've been aware of him since he was on the city board many years ago, and I've always been a very big fan of what Mark Dame has done for the city and for the county. And I'm very sorry to see Mark having to hang up his shingle here and then move on. I'm sure we all wish you well, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rob.
Yes, I finally got my keyboard to wake up so I could unmute my microphone. Mark, you're definitely going to be missed. You've done wonderful things, like everybody has said, and you've always been the person to talk to and call and run things by first. There's no doubt you're going to be missed, but I wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Am I missing anybody? It's hard to
Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
Mr. Hall, go ahead.
Well, it goes without saying, Mark, I agree with everything that's been said about you. I'm going to really miss you a lot. I hope to see you in Myrtle Beach, but I'm going to miss you a lot. You'll read tomorrow morning in the Press Republican what I've had to say about you, and I'll leave it at that. We've had a lot of good years together, and the last 7 have been really great. I think the sad part about this whole thing is what's happened with this virus. We could really use your input now, and I'm going to be calling on you also for any advice you can give to me. I think you're a hell of a guy, and I'm going to really miss you.
Thank you, Bobby. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I certainly thank everyone for their kind words. It really has been an honor serving with all of you. It certainly has been the highlight of my life, being chosen by the neighbors and my constituents in Area 8, the area that I grew up in. And when I ran 8 years ago, in the fall, a little over 8 years ago from now, I said a number of things that I thought I would like to do. Most of them were taxpayer-centered, I will admit. I do believe I accomplished some of them, and there's certainly some things that I haven't accomplished, but I can leave knowing comfortably that what I haven't accomplished, I did try my level best. And I do leave with some comfort knowing that Clinton County is under the guidance of some of the best people in the state of New York, my colleagues on the legislature, and the management at Clinton County, Mike Zerlo, Rodney Brown, and some of the managers and departments are the best. The decisions that you guys and gals are going to have to make financially and human decisions, this crisis and the financial burden that is caused and the state has put on your backs are going to be monumental. But I believe you have the character, the intelligence, the willpower, and the political courage to make the best decisions possible. I will just leave you with one parting piece of advice, please remember that there are 82,000 people in Clinton County, and all of them are taxpayers, and they need to make sure, we need to make sure that they don't handle the entire burden. But it's been an honor, and I'll stop in. I didn't want to end my last meeting by a virtual reality meeting, but I certainly wanted to do it in person. But you can be back. I'm going to be going back and forth a lot, and I have. And I certainly will stop in maybe the first time I can at one of your meetings, and I'm sure maybe I can take you out and buy a few beers, and we can enjoy some company together. But it's been an honor serving the people of Clinton County, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all you've done. All right, back to work. Before voting on the resolutions, I want to note that a majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees, and the legislature is taking action tonight based in large part on the recommendation of those committees. Mr. Zerlo, will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Certainly. Resolution 236, authorizing application and acceptance of Stewart's Holiday Grant, Youth Bureau.
Motion, Mr. Potiker. Second, Mr. Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Mr. Perrier.
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 237.
Sweet. Carried.
Touche, my friend. Resolution 237, authorizing New York State Community Development Block Grant Acceptance, Planning Departments.
Motion, Legislator Rosenquist. Second, Legislator Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution 238, authorizing contract with the Housing Assistance Program of Essex County, Planning Department.
Motion, Legislator Rosenquist. Second, Mr. Potiker. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this follows the previous resolution. This is the third party who will be administering the CDBG program on behalf of Clinton County. They are compensated by a portion of the grant. Roll call. Perrier?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 239, authorizing memorandum of understanding with the MHAB Life Skills Campus, Mental Health and Addiction.
Motion, Legislator Waldron. Second, Legislator Conroy. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 240, authorizing contract with amendment with Dr. Richard Leota, Mental Health and Addiction.
Motion, Legislator Waldron. Second, Legislator Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 241, authorizing contract with the Joint Council for Economic Opportunity, Office for the Aging.
Motion, Legislator Conroy. Second, Legislator Castine. Discussion.
I just want to fill the committee in. This resolution is a result of the discussion we had at the Human Services Committee. And as you can see, we were able to reprogram some BISRIC money. This was the expense that the Director of Office for the Aging made us aware that she would like to provide an additional service. And we found a way to do it outside the tax levy. Roll call. Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 242, authorizing contract amendment with Janet Curran at Nursing Home.
Motion, Legislator Conroy. Second, Legislator Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 243, authorizing Adirondack Foundation grant acceptance, District Attorney's Office Child Advocacy Center.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Hall. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 244, authorizing contract with Thomson Reuters, assigned counsel.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Timmons. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution number 245, authorizing Indigent Legal Services Plan Enhancement Grant Acceptance, assigned counsel.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Potiker. Discussion.
I would just like to remind the body, Mr. Chairman, this is year 2 of the Indigent Defense Legal Services Plan grant. This is the grant that funds a myriad of things, but the main recipient of this grant is the Public Defender's Office. So this second year actually ended March 31, 2020. So just last week, and we had been expending money, waiting for the complete sign off for year 2. So we now have this in place. My office has already billed the state of New York in excess of $700,000. So this is very positive. The second thing I'd like to mention is that year 3, this year 3's amount jumps up beyond $1.4 million. I have had a conversation with our public defender, and this grant is not exempt from the potential reduction in state revenue. So as such, Mr. Martineau and I have discussed that, he's going to spend more along the lines of the year 2 expenditure, and not make decisions based on in the anticipated $1.4 million expenditure, to leave a safety zone in there so we're not caught short-handed. Any money that is not expended does not go away. It remains in the county's line item and can be spent going forward. So we just want to be sure that we're not caught underspent, and Mr. Martineau is in agreement with that plan.
Anything further? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Carried. Resolution 246, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the district attorney, federal justice seizure reserve, and state seizure reserve, district attorney's office.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution 247, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the live scan equipment grant program, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Hall. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution number 248, authorizing the county treasurer to increase appropriation and corresponding revenue for insurance reimbursement, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution number 249, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the supervision and treatment services for juvenile plan funds grant, social services.
Motion, legislator Potiker, second, legislator Dane. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
I'd like a motion to waive Rule 13.2.
So moved.
Motion by Bobby Hall, second by Patty. Motion by Hall, second by Waldron. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Resolution number 250, approving temporary on-call payment for environmental health staff for rabies emergencies, Health Department.
Motion, Legislator Hall, second, Legislator Castine. Discussion. All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye. Aye.
Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
No, I'm still here.
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
No, next two are all.
Okay, so I thought, I made a mistake.
Resolution 251, approving backfill of permanent full-time Director of Planning, Planning Department.
Motion, Legislator Timmons, second, Legislator Castine. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 252, appointment of Director of Planning, Planning Department.
Motion, Legislator Henry, second, Legislator Hall. Discussion.
So, Mr. Chairman, it's probably prudent that either you or Mr. Brown discuss this topic so the full board is in line.
Sure, I can, but I think Rodney would be the go-to expert on it.
As many probably are aware, it is typical, even if it's an in-house candidate for a director position, that an interview is held. Given the circumstances, I think there's been a lot of discussion about not holding an interview in this case. I can say this, I hired Glenn Cutter 29 years ago, 6 months after I started, and he has been a stellar employee. He's incredibly responsible. He's hardworking. He certainly won't embarrass the county. I think he will provide very good service. He is humbled by the opportunity, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions that anybody might have on his qualifications. He knows more about zoning and planning than I do. He's really developed an expertise in that area, and he's been a great resource to the local municipalities in Clinton County. So I certainly wholeheartedly endorse, Glenn for this position.
Any further discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 253, urging Governor Cuomo to consider unique circumstances in the North Country region when deciding on redistributing critical medical staff and supplies. Legislature.
Motion, Legislator Waldron, second, Legislator Dane. Discussion.
Yes, Legislator Henry. After talking with Legislator Hall, who thank you, Bobby, for calling and reaching out to us about this issue. I did reach out to you, Legislator Henry, and to discuss this, and the concern that I have of the communication that we as the legislature are going to make to the governor. And I just want to say that I know, like me, I'm assuming that the most of us are pretty scared and fearful and uncertain, but even in this uncertainty, what I've seen over the last several weeks is a tremendous outpouring of community support, community cohesion, and I can only say that for me, I see that as a North Country value. And even though these times we see are uncertain, some think, and I would even say some say we should act with courage in the face of that fear. Now, although the community is being asked, and I say asked in quotes, the initial communication was included National Guard and Seas, which some people wouldn't say that was the most appropriate to ask, but what we're being asked is to share just 20% of what we're not using. And these resources are going to save lives of those inflicted with COVID-19, as well as protect our frontline workers, those essential workers that are hands-on trying to stem the increase of COVID. And, you know, I can only point to when we needed, state and community resources for the prison break, we got it. You know, we had community friends come out, neighbors came out, restaurant sacrifice for what we needed in our community. And that was a time when we needed it the most. And there was no question whether or not it was given to us or provided to us. So being torn with my own assessment and my own opinion about what we should do and what our experts are saying, I reached out to the experts that we've entrusted to guide us through this pandemic, what our local response would be in this pandemic, and this is what they said. With regards to the sentiment of medical professionals, there is no question in caps. There's no question that sharing medical supplies with those with those in a big need now is what should be done. Somebody else said, my preference would be to share available resources in order to save lives immediately if possible. In the meantime, we should continue to do everything in our power to prevent infection. You know, the way that I look at it is that we are neighbors, you know, as human beings, we should be reaching out, and most importantly, we're New Yorkers, and I think that what we should do is to take what we should do is do whatever it takes to support each other in our greatest time of need, and I think that's what everybody else would do for us.
Thank you very much. I would only respond. In fact, I think everybody here agrees with pretty much everything you just said, Chris. And I think that's what this resolution does. I think a careful reading will show that we recognize exactly what you were talking about the crisis, not only especially in New York City and the metropolitan area, but within our state and across our nation. And that sets that. It also shows appreciation to the governor, who backed off his initial statement, as you said, of basically sending the National Guard up to transport these out of here. We appreciate the governor for reconsidering and asking us to do this. We don't know what the future will bring. We are not saying no, we're not going to share with you. In fact, we will. And to be honest, it doesn't matter if we say no or not. If he wants them, he's going to come and get them. What we are asking, and all we are asking, is that we do want to help the folks across this state and this nation. We do, however, have some circumstances when it comes to deciding what the numbers are. Now it's 20%. We don't know what maybe the next wave, hopefully there's not one, could bring. We don't know where we could be tomorrow. And all we ask in this resolution is for the governor to consider our unique circumstances of the region that we serve, the correctional facilities that we have, the nursing homes that we have in our area, the amount of increase for the COVID-19 here, although I don't want to bring us bad luck, it's looking a little better. So just not to beat this up too much, I think we do exactly as you asked, only asking the governor to please take these issues into consideration when you decide to pick a number to take.
Yeah, no doubt, and I did read it. I read it a couple times just to see, you know, honestly, after your and my conversation, as I said, I would look at it, and I did consider, and I did read it through to really take a careful look at where I could stand, or you know, where I could just look for myself, where I could stand for myself. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So, Mr. Rosenquist is
No.
negative.
You're a negative, Chris, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
9-1, sir.
9-1. Carried. Does anyone else have anything further to come before the legislature?
Before we go.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, before we go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
I'd like to ask Michael a question. I want to talk about some financial items in different departments, and I feel it should be talked about in executive session.
Are you saying this has to do with, maybe contractual issues or
Yes.
with
Yes.
Specific personnel?
No, contractual issues.
Specific personnel.
With specific personnel as well? No?
No.
I'm asking, Jackie. Okay,
I mean, contractual.
yes, absolutely.
In general, and that's
Right.
really legally like.
So that's all what you're asking about, Bobby, is contractual.
Bob, would you be potentially seeking the advice of counsel?
Yes.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Then yes, it could be part of the executive session that we had planned going into.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Excuse me. Then I will now entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So move.
Second.
Second. Legislator Hall motion, second Legislator Castine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We will now go into executive session.
Okay.
Anything else to talk about?
Well, Chairman, I apologize. I did not get the opportunity to talk about Legislator Dame. I can tell you he has made me a better administrator. He and I disagree philosophically occasionally on some issues, but Mark Dame listens. Mark Dame makes a difference, and I can say that I was extremely honored to work for him. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mike, for those kind words. And if I may, thank all of my colleagues again for their kind words and for my time serving with you. But I would be remiss if I didn't thank my family during my long political career, especially my wife, who, believe it or not, has toned me down quite a bit. You probably didn't know it, but she has. She has been my campaign manager, my confidant, just about my everything. She's even made me a little less conservative in some areas that needed to be, and maybe a little bit more in other areas that didn't. But anyway, thank you very much for all your kind words. Good luck to Clinton County. Clinton County is in good hands with all of you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Mark. I'm gonna have a cold Corona for you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Bye, Mark.
Bye, folks. I'll see you in Plattsburgh soon.
Adjourned.
Chris Rosenquist.
Chris Rosenquist, I have a motion. Second by
Second.
Second. Bobby.
Robbie. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.